Hello everyone, welcome to another IncGamers podcast / vidcast presentation. My name is Peter Parrish. It's a special post-US election edition, although we won't really be talking about that because we'll be talking about video games instead. With myself and also Paul Younger is here too.
Hello everybody.
And Tim McDonald is here as well.
Hello, I have a question.
Okay.
Couldn't we do a special video games and US election themed podcast where we just talk for half an hour about Political Machine 2012 or something like that?
Yeah, no, because I haven't played it.
I seriously think people in the US have probably had enough of the election. We could turn this into a political ad.
Yeah.
Why not?
Mitt Romney wants to eat all your children.
Pretty much, basically.
Obama will ship all your jobs overseas.
Etc., etc.
To China.
Luckily, I don't live in a... yeah, to China, most likely. Luckily, I don't live in a swing state, so I didn't have to put up with that. And also, if we talk about politics, we'll alienate our 3 Republican listeners, so...
What, 3? Surely not 3.
I don't know, maybe 3 or 4. Paul, do you want to mention again that IncGamers has gone PC only, just in case anyone happens to have missed that?
Yeah, in case you're tuning in for the latest and greatest in console action, we're now PC only. So welcome to the world of PC gaming, the ultimate gaming machine.
Is that like the political machine?
No.
Alright, well, enough about B-Rock, the Islamic shock, Obama winning another 4 years in office then. Let's talk about things in the news. Let's start with THQ suffering some financial difficulties of late, which of course has a knock-on effect directly onto their gaming output. A couple of days ago they had their second or third quarter financial details, and you knew there was a bit of a problem when they refused to take any questions from investors at the end, and also refused to talk about any sort of future financial direction for the company. That suggested problems were afoot. They've shunted a lot of their games, delayed quite a few of their games, pushed them into later months. And of late, their share price is tanking, basically. This is already after they performed some financial jiggery-pokery where they oh man, it's like called a 10-to-1 share split or something, where if you held 10 shares at 16 cents each, you now own 1 at $1.60, something like that. Anyway, it was some financial jiggery-pokery to keep them listed on the stock exchange. I'm a financial podcast all of a sudden.
In short, then, maths.
Sorry?
Forget it.
No. Alright, that's good. Yeah, who wants to talk about THQ's? Unfortunate. It is unfortunate actually, because they have some good licenses.
What did they have? I can't even remember.
They have Saints Row. They've got Red Faction, got a South Park game supposedly coming out in the near future, although that may be more dubious now. They've got Relic on board, so they've got Company of Heroes and Warhammer stuff. So.
Well, Tim sniggered there when you said they've got some good stuff. So, Tim, what's your view on this?
I quite agree with that. I think they've got some really, really good stuff. I don't know whether I'd say Red Faction is one of them. I mean, it took them 3 games to actually make one that was worth playing, and then they ruined it with the 4th one. But no, by and large, I think the THQ have got some really, really good, really strong properties. Darksiders as well, if I remember rightly. Which is why it's kind of surprising that they're in this state at the moment. I mean, Homefront is another one which that never really was a huge success, but there's apparently a sequel for that coming if they can find money. But I think it's a shame because they've got a really strong slate of games coming up over sort of within the next year. If you consider South Park, the new Metro, Company of Heroes 2, yeah, it's a bit sad really. It's quite depressing. All of those look like they should be really good.
Indeed, and yeah, I think currently based on share price, the company is currently worth something like $7 million in total, which isn't really great for them. I was also kind of looking forward to South Park, being that it's going to be an Obsidian developed RPG, which is also something I'm interested in seeing.
Are we under the impression then that they are screwed, and that some of these may not see the light of day?
They could get. It's difficult to know really whether they're going to opt for bankruptcy or get some more investment from somewhere else or have some sort of a buyout. But I think they need one of those options, because if not, I kind of don't see how they can stem the bleeding. Because as I say, they've delayed their games. That's their source of revenue, obviously. All this big stuff that they have coming up is either sort of early next year or sort of mid next year. So, Tim,
do we think they delayed the games because of quality with most of them, or to try and make later financial reports look better by releasing them all around about the same time and essentially making the numbers look a bit better than they would otherwise if they were spread out a bit more?
I think the second thing, because I think that's pretty much what they're interested in. Obviously, I have no insight into the current development process of their games catalog, but it seemed strange that every single one of the upcoming titles needed more quality polish. It was kind of a uniform pushing them into later months. So that's my opinion based on what I read.
Maybe they haven't heard the old adage, "You can't polish a turd," and effectively the polishing continues, but it will never be finished.
What exactly? What are you implying about Metro Last Light, Company of Heroes 2, and South Park?
But here's the thing, right? THQ titles, they always are quite. Some of them are quite, not all of them, but some of them are quite good. But they never seem to really sort of capture the mass market imagination. Do you get my point on that?
I think the one that usually does is Saints Row. The Relic games don't do badly either, but they're PC only. Things like the Warhammer 40,000 Dawn of War games and Company of Heroes and so on. Company of Heroes still sells reasonably well today, I think, with Steam sales and so on, because it is considered to be one of the best RTS games in sort of the last decade. I would imagine some of that upcoming stable would sell fairly well. I think Metro would be one of the ones that will probably deserve to sell better than it actually does. But I'd be kind of surprised if South Park and Company of Heroes 2 didn't do quite well.
Yeah, they may do quite well, but if you think about it, they don't. It's not like EA or Activision. Well, EA is probably not a great example with Warfighter, but with Activision, they're pushing out a COD, and it's massively pushed. It's a big release. It's an annual event type thing. And they're just one of the publishers that just haven't captured that yet. Like with Halo, for example, which was this week on the Xbox. So I kind of think they kind of fall foul to that a little bit. Well, Saints Row 3 obviously did very well, but that's kind of what my thinking.
That's a good point, but I think at the same time, I think trying to go down that route may be what has got them in this kind of state in the first place. Because I remember Homefront having a gigantic marketing push, and there was a lot of talk at the time from people who no longer work for THQ, like Danny Bilson, sort of, trying to say this is our attempt to be more of a sort of COD, Medal of Honor type effort to get into that market. There was to sell multiple millions to make back their marketing spend. So, once you go down that route, you have problems if the game doesn't sell to your expectations and hopes. And I think the other thing, of course, was the UDraw tablet. I think they lost a lot of money on that. To the extent I don't even really remember what it was, other than they tried to push it out everywhere and it didn't really sell very well and cost them a lot of money. I don't know what you guys think about whether they perhaps should have tried to go more niche rather than trying to go fully mainstream. I mean, because it just costs so much money to do that in the current industry. It seems to me.
Possibly. I mean, I think you've got a problem there with titles like Saints Row and so on. They do need a certain degree of polish. I mean, that's the sort of game that really does need quite a lot of money thrown at it, considering what it's competing with. The same to some extent with Homefront, although I think Homefront was a misstep. I mean, I wouldn't say that THQ is one of the sort of the top tier of publishers, but then I'd only really put EA and Activision in that category as kind of the two biggest and most powerful out there. And yeah, I don't know whether trying to compete with them on their own terms is a really good idea. I will say this, though. I think that South Park was probably a move in the right direction, because that's an established studio, that's a strong property, and from the looks of from everything I've heard, it looks like that should be quite good if it sees the light of day, which it hopefully will. So I will be really, really sad if THQ folds and we don't see these upcoming titles, because most of them do look really promising.
Well, let's face it. I mean, if they're good titles, someone's bound to pick them up. Surely.
Yeah, you would hope so. Like, much like with Sleeping Dogs and Square Enix picking that up from Activision's stable. Yeah, well, we'll have to see really where as the days go by what happens with THQ's financial situation. But hopefully they'll get that sorted to some degree. If not, of course, they could always turn to Kickstarter. We've had a few Kickstarter related announcements, and also related classic games being brought back. Nice segue there. I hope you all appreciate that. We had David Braben announcing that he's going to try and raise some money to make a new Elite game. And he's not calling it Elite 4. I think it's Elite Dangerous, I think is the...
I have an issue with that name. It's shit.
Yeah.
It's fitting.
No, it's just shit.
It wasn't Dangerous. Wasn't Dangerous one of the ranks in Elite?
Well,
it was,
but
and
still,
is, yes.
Well, I can't call it just, Elite, it's a bit hard, or Elite...
Because that's an even worse name.
Elite, it's tough as nails.
Elite, mostly harmless,
Yes.
I would have gone for. To be fair, not a great deal to discuss in the sense that he's launched the Kickstarter. They're trying to raise money. There weren't at this point any sort of screens or video to go along with it.
There was something on the BBC site actually. Today, where they were doing an interview with them, and there was sort of monitors in the background with it on. But I mean, not exactly showing you a lot really. But there you go, bit of a teaser if you go check the BBC site and look for the interview on there. But not a lot of info really.
Is this sort of... Sorry, carry on.
No, I was just going to say there's also been persistent rumours that Frontier Developments have been working on some kind of Elite game. Whether those have been true or not, I don't know, because it kind of seems like this effort is not starting from scratch as such, but it's not starting from like a decade's worth of work. Clearly, I don't think. Ideas maybe, but not necessarily development.
I find it quite interesting on the Kickstarter page where it was almost said they were testing the water with it to see if there was a market for it by using the Kickstarter to just sort of see what was if anyone was really that interested. Which I don't know if I agree with that or not, but don't know.
What you think they've been a bit pessimistic there? Because I would have thought, given that Kickstarter seems to be quite friendly to space-related games as one of those genres, and Elite is pretty well loved, I think, by everyone.
I think cautious is the word I'd use. Overcautious, maybe. I don't know. Tim?
I've got a question. Do either of you two actually have working joysticks at the moment?
Yes.
That
doesn't surprise me, actually. Sorry? No, that's not a euphemism. I mean that quite seriously. One of the ones that you plug in. No way, I've made it worse.
Yeah. No, I do not have.
I've got a vibrating one as well.
Oh,
It does. It is. It's a force feedback vibrating stick.
enough
Right,
about what you get
moving-
to do with Luke in the office. That's not.
moving away from your personal massage device.
I think your point, Tim, is going to be that maybe people are lacking in the joystick department these days.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. This is the one genre, the sort of space-based and flight-based games that you kind of do require a specialist bit of kit for, because they are absolute gash with mouse and keyboard or with gamepad or anything like that. And yeah, it's I kind of have to wonder whether this huge amount of projects on Kickstarter for games like this is going to cause a resurgence in the purchasing of joysticks, or whether it's primarily the people who already have joysticks who are going for them. Or if it's the third option, people who are nostalgic for these games but won't have any way to play them.
Is this the launch of your new joystick manufacturing company, Tim Sticks? Is that your plan, Tim? Are you
Actually, Tim Sticks already exists, but it's not the joystick manufacturing. That's
Right, okay.
different.
It's a firewood company. I imagine.
Moving on.
It's
I
not that.
think Tim's the local dealer on the Isle of Man, and he's known as everyone goes to Tim for their sticks.
Yeah. So yeah, enough about the joystick lobbying movement that's growing strong. Other notable titles that have brought back from a beautiful nostalgic haze this week. Julian Gollop has emerged from Bulgaria, actually, where he seems to live now, and said that he's going to be what, Tim? Why are you face planting at that? He lives in Bulgaria now. That's true.
It's just the mental image. Julian Gollop has emerged from Bulgaria. There's just something about that. Sorry, carry on. Ignore me. I'll just sit here sniggering to myself.
He posted a thing on Twitter, too much excitement, saying, "Oh, by the way, I'm going to be remaking Chaos, the old ZX Spectrum 8-bit title," and then he's subsequently gone on to put up a kind of development blog in which he's fleshed out those ideas a bit more. He's not doing a Kickstarter, as far as I can tell. He seems to just be doing this independently, so booking the recent trend of getting other people to fund your game ideas. He has announced basically that the multiplayer side of things will be sort of using network play. He's hoping to have some co-op in there, possibly some different modes. It's going to be 1 to 8 players as the original game was, and he's also hoping to put in a bit of a single player campaign as well, with sort of some randomized procedural elements in there. I suppose we should say what Chaos is, because not everyone listening to this is 30 years old. It was a game in which it was a turn-based game, 1 to 8 players. You each took control of a wizard in a sort of single-screen arena. You have a spell-casting phase in which you could cast either creatures or spells like lightning bolts and other wizardly things. The creature could either be real or an illusion. Illusionary creatures would automatically be cast, but could be magicked away by another one of the players casting a kind of disbelieve spell on them. And you would use your creatures and spells to kind of combat all the other wizards until there was only one wizard left standing. And one of my favourite games from the Spectrum era. I got it on a Your Sinclair cover cassette and played it religiously.
I didn't play Chaos. I've played similar-ish games like Archon. I did, however, play the sequel, Lords of Chaos, which, if I remember right, was a wee bit different. You were trying to reach a portal, and so were the other players, for the most part, and it was sort of lots of big maps with buildings and trees and all sorts, and I did thoroughly enjoy that, though. So I'm quite looking forward to this.
Yeah, Lords of Chaos had similar principles, but yeah, it had the larger maps. It was a more kind of expansive experience. Paul, did you ever play Chaos?
It's probably one of the few Spectrum games I probably didn't play, actually.
Oh, wow.
Weirdly enough. But then again, I was living abroad at the time, so I
Okay.
sort of missed a little bit of Spectrum time for some titles, I guess. I think I was away in '84 or something, so could have been around then-ish. Don't know, can't remember. But no, that's one of the few I haven't played actually.
Well, Julian Gollop, of course, went on to make the original XCOM. Well, not on his own exactly, but was very influential in the making of the original XCOM. So I'm sure people will be aware of that game with the remake having come out recently. And the other one, the other game dragged out of the archives this week was Dreamfall. Tim, you want to talk about Dreamfall probably? Or Paul, maybe?
I'm really happy about this. Well, actually, that's a lie. I haven't been happy about anything about 3 years. But that's besides the point.
Keep taking the pills, Tim.
I'm really looking forward to this because Dreamfall, I would say it's one of my favourite games, except that's patently untrue because it's a really bad game. It's just a really, really good interactive story with some really terrible gameplay elements thrown in. But it ended on kind of a cliffhanger note, and we've been waiting for however many years to see how that's going to resolve, and thankfully it now actually looks like it might. But yeah, I mean, the Dreamfall was a sequel to The Longest Journey, which was a point-and-click adventure, reasonably standard one, but with rather good writing, decent characters, and some mature themes, which were actually mature, rather than, lots of violence and swearing. Dreamfall was kind of similar, except it really toned down the game aspects. It had combat and stealth, neither of which were any good at all. And most of the puzzles were really walk to one location, talk to a person, walk back 4 screens, talk to another person, go back to the first person, talk to them again. Which doesn't sound like it's really worth playing described like that. But again, it was just held together with an absolutely fantastic story, and quite honestly, off the top of my head, I can't think of any game that's been better written. It is phenomenal in terms of its writing and its storytelling, and it is absolutely worth a look just for that. So yes, I'm thoroughly looking forward to the continuation. And either of you?
So you know what? My wife will be. She's talked about the Dreamfall games. I haven't actually played them. I think she played the second one on the original Xbox or something like that.
Yeah, that was
so, Tim, are you essentially hoping for the writing to be similar quality, but perhaps some of the gameplay to be a little better this time around, or do you think they're just going to go for the same route of great story, bit of gameplay, but we're not that worried about all that?
I suspect if this is kind of the Dreamfall chapters that was rumoured, then it will probably be kind of episodic, which makes me think they'll probably follow the Telltale structure. For whatever reason, I get the feeling that it will probably be more traditional point and clicking. But the upshot, frankly, is that I don't really care. As long as the story and the writing and the characters are there, I will play it and almost certainly enjoy it regardless. Because it really is just that good. It's one of my favourite stories from any medium. And so yes, I'll absolutely be there for the continuation of that. Even if it retains the dreadful stealth and the dreadful fighting and so on, I don't care. I'll carry on with it anyway, and I will, if the writing's as good, recommend it loudly to everybody, just as I did with Dreamfall.
So basically, it's alright if I write a game with an excellent story and it's just a dot, 1 pixel dot on the screen. You'd be happy with that.
As long as it's got a really, really good story, sure, why not?
Excellent. My Kickstarter launches tomorrow.
Pixel, a dot's tail.
No, that's something Molyneux would do.
I will say quickly that I would be hard-pressed to call that a game, unless there are actual gameplay elements, which is why I'm hesitant to say that Dreamfall is one of my favourite games, because the actual gameplay aspects of it aren't really very good. But in terms of interactive storytelling, it's rarely been bettered.
Just while we're on the subject of Molyneux, has anyone been tapping away at his cube yet?
I was going to, but apparently the servers are down at the moment because too many people have been tapping. So it's a bit broken right now.
Just for fuck's sake, everybody, there's nothing in it. There's nothing in it. It's Molyneux. It's a broken dream.
Paul, it might contain the 5th ticket to Willy Wonka's Chocolate Factory.
Or a night out with Peter Molyneux in a dark cupboard and a candle.
I'll be up for that.
And a polo neck jumper.
Yeah, that's what it's going to be. It's a free turtleneck.
If it's a turtleneck that would make it worthwhile. I think if it was just a turtleneck.
Maybe he shouldn't have playing a cube. Maybe he should have just tapped away at his turtleneck.
I'm not. I'm not going to sit there for hours tapping away at it in the vain hope that I will be the one to break the last block. But I do want to download it and have a look at it, if nothing else. I want to see how it works, what it's like. And yes, I know you're probably just going to say it's a game where you tap at a cube. Go on, say it.
Tim, it's a game.
But what if it has a really good story? What if it has a really good story? What if the cube has a really rich and deep personality?
Tim, you're a sucker.
The turtleneck game, surely you'd be unraveling it slowly, like a thread at a time, rather than tapping at it. I think that's how that one would work.
It was the thought. It was the thought of a naked Molyneux underneath the turtleneck that put me off immediately.
That's the prize. That's the prize. What a mental image. Okay, and let's move on to games that actually are games. Go on, Tim. Sorry, you're not going to let us move on.
I just want to apologise for the mental scarring that we've just caused. We're very sorry. It won't happen again. Carry on.
It will happen again. I can't talk about what I've been playing this week because I'm under the dreaded 3-initialed NDA. It's a game featuring a bald man who likes to dress up. That's what I'm going to say about that.
So it's Patrick Stewart's Excellent Adventure. I heard rumours that game was coming out, but I never expected to. Wow.
Or it could be Patrick Stewart at a Star Trek convention.
Guys, I'm under NDA. You've just blown it. Look, it's not going to be a surprise now when the review comes out.
It's alright, you've just got to remember to edit this out of the podcast and the video.
I guess I'll leave it in. But
Sorry,
if Patrick Stewart's people get onto me and start trying to sue me, I'm going to blame you. So that's it from me. But let's start with Tim. I know you've been enjoying a certain dinosaur-related game recently.
Enjoying's an interesting word, but we'll get on to that. Yeah, I've been playing Primal Carnage, which is a PC multiplayer-only deathmatch game which pits humans against dinosaurs, which has the minor problem that I'm not a particularly big dinosaur fan in the first place. I mean, I fell asleep in Jurassic Park. So, yeah.
Is that the actual Jurassic Park?
Yeah, the actual Jurassic Park. I nearly got eaten. I think it's like with bears. They thought I was playing dead, so they left me alone.
It's just your
what the hell was I talking about?
It was just your anger at the world that scared them away, Tim.
They were afraid of the pure loathing that was... Okay, so Primal Carnage, anyway.
Speaking of pure loathing... No, that's unfair.
That is unfair. It's not bad. It's a class-based game. There are 5 classes on each side, the human side. You've generally got a couple of weapons per class. You've got the scientist who has tranquilizer darts and has a sniper rifle. You've got the pathfinder who's got a shotgun and has flares that can blind the dinosaurs. On the dinosaur side, you don't really have so much in the way of ranged attacks. There is one dinosaur which spits sort of blinding goo, which can be quite useful as well. You've got T-Rexes and Novaraptors and things like that. The most fun is probably the Pteranodon. Paul?
Oh, no, carry on, Tim.
Paul?
There's shenanigans going on Paul's camera for the benefit of people listening to the podcast. I think he's
distracting.
He's ushering in. He's ushering in a sign that has dinner written on it.
Did the dinosaurs pass you that as a threat?
I think he's trying to speak, but his mic's... Paul, your mic's cut out. Speak to us, Paul.
No, that's probably...
I'm sorry. No, that was just shoved around the door. It wasn't a sign for Tim.
Getting a subtle hint from your home life there, Paul.
In other words, Tim, keep it short because I'm freaking hungry.
How can I draw this out then? Make you suffer. The classes are varied. The classes are varied. They're quite fun to play. The Pteranodon on the dinosaur side is a personal favourite because it can fly. It's got a roar which kind of highlights any humans nearby, and it can swoop down, pick people up, fly up, and drop them off chasms. Peter.
Let's cut to the chase here, right? It's a class-based multiplayer pseudo shooter. Does it have anything? There's like a million of those. Does it have anything going for it other than the fact that you can play as dinosaurs, which admittedly is quite an enticing prospect? But is there much going for it aside from that?
Yes and no. I will say that for a small team, this game looks phenomenal. It is really, really good looking. It's Unreal Engine 3. There are lots of clever things done with foliage. And stealth is a fairly large aspect of it for the dinosaurs, as long as you're not playing as a T-Rex. On the other hand, it's got a serious problem with lack of content at the moment. There are 5 maps. There is only one game mode at the moment, which is Deathmatch. And once you've played it for an hour, you've kind of seen everything there is. There isn't a great deal of nuance to it. What tends to happen on every server is that all of the humans will ball together, because it's the safest thing to do. And then the dinosaurs will have to just sort of band together and try and swarm them. And there are room for small tactics in there, like you might have 1 or 2 players playing as Dilos who can spit and blind people and so on. But yeah, for the most part, it's just a big ball versus a big ball. And it doesn't really feel like it matters whether you win or lose, because games tend to be over fairly quickly. There's no score on screen, there's no timer or anything, so a game ends, and then you're immediately back in, but you're on the other team. So it feels a bit more like a playground than a game at the moment. There is, however, free DLC coming, including an objective mode, which will hopefully break this up a bit. But it kind of suffers from the problems that I think the early versions, the in-house development versions of Left 4 Dead did, in that people tend to ball up, and it's really, really hard for the infected to actually get them when they do that. And this kind of suffers from the same problem and doesn't really offer as much in the way of splitting people up. If the humans stick together and are watchful, it's really difficult to break them apart. So at the moment, it's fairly cheap. It's the sort of thing, if you really want a game in which you can play as a T-Rex and run around eating people, and that will absolutely be enough for some people, then yeah, this does it fairly well. It's just that there isn't really much of a game there at the moment. For everyone else, I would say, hang around and see what the DLC's like. See how that changes it and how that fixes the problems.
All right, and
Thank you, Tim.
There's going to be a review of that coming in a near future date, isn't there? I think.
I think I just did the review. I'm just going to listen to the podcast and copy down everything I said verbatim.
An advanced preview of the review. Paul, are you too hungry to talk about the game that you tried to play this week?
Yeah, I will talk about it quickly. I basically I've been trying to play War Thunder, which is a sort of massively multiplayer online war plane simulator, not simulator, shooter, not shooter. You know what I mean. I've been trying to get that up and running this week, but I've had a few technical issues, mainly the fact that I got in last night and managed to do the training, no problem. It does look really, really nice. In fact, I'm surprised we haven't heard more about it, really, to be perfectly honest. But the problem I got was I ended up in a queue trying to get some multiplayer action going, because it is multiplayer only. Very much like what Wargaming are trying to do with World of Warplanes, but actually out of the two that I've been looking at the moment, I'd probably say that the War Thunder actually looks a bit nicer, and I think it's going to have a few more features in it than what Wargaming have got planned currently for World of Warplanes. But like I say, it is still in testing, and it was just a bit of a shame last night that I couldn't find more people online to actually play with. But I will be going back into it at some point, hopefully tonight, to have another look and see what I can find. So I can't really talk too much about that right now, which is a bit of a shame, because it's taken a bit of time to get the thing up and running and playing. But I will say also I've been playing this week quickly as Borderlands 2. I'm not going to rattle on about it because everybody's actually been playing it. I liked the first one. It was okay, but I did lose interest in it quite quickly. This one, I'm still getting to grips with it a little bit. I find the interface a bit annoying, especially in the inventory. Tim's going to say something right now. Tim, over to you.
I was just going to say, you have been playing this on PC, yes?
Yeah, of course.
Good man. Yeah, I played it on PC as well, and thoroughly enjoyed it, actually. I didn't like the original Borderlands. I wasn't a fan of that at all, but Borderlands 2 really caught my attention after the first hour or so, and I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Well, I did play the first one on PC as well, but I still find the interface a bit annoying, a little bit confusing.
It's better than it was, but it is still slightly cumbersome with bits and pieces of the inventory in particular, yeah. But for the most part, I could deal with it without too much trouble.
Yeah, it's just moving stuff around, like switching weapons, and it just seems over stupidly complicated for what you're actually trying to do. But I've actually thoroughly enjoyed it. I've been playing it co-op with Ellie, so yeah, because she really liked the first one. But
I'll have to get on. You'll have to get online with me at some time as well. Then we'll have to all play together, and I'll shoot you all.
Is that a date, Tim?
That's kind of creepy, Paul. Don't do that.
Please, can I have a date with you, Tim? You're my hero.
Okay, I'm going to go now.
So that's
hide in the cupboard and cry.
Well, that's it from
Peter Molyneux's in that cupboard. Watch out.
Oh no. That's it for me about what I've been playing this week. The thing is, I've been trying to do so many different things and dip in and out of so many different things, whether it's been air mech or whatever it is. But I haven't really had anything that isn't kind of like been online only multiplayer dive in for more than 10 to 15 minute or 30 minute spells to really sort of talk about, because just the nature of things that are around just now. I know that we're all probably going to have a shot at the War Z and Hawken as well in the coming days, so that should be a good laugh.
Indeed, and those things will almost undoubtedly make it onto the IncGamers site, which you can have a look at right now at IncGamers.com. On there at the moment, there is a brief Q&A with the developer, one of the developers of Hotline Miami. There's an interview with one of the Forge developers. What else is there, Paul?
Oh, I can't remember. I don't read the damn site. But yeah, we did put the thing up. We did actually. That's a liar. I'm on it all the time, glued to our every word. I did actually put a thing up this week about the Diablo 3 skill comparison tool that we have, which is actually very cool. If you think your skills are all screwed up and you're a bit shit at figuring out what you should and shouldn't be using, well, go and compare it to what people and some of the top players are actually using. It's very, very useful. Do check that out. It is on the front page, and if not, you can get it on the Diablo IncGamers site as well. Other things that are coming up, well, I don't know, there's quite a few interviews that were due back in. We're just waiting for those to materialise, so I won't say what they are until they do actually materialise.
Indeed, and there are a couple of reviews coming up, but again, the NDA strikes, can't probably mention those. One very quickly, bit of business. We got a comment on our last podcast from David the Slayer regarding 3D games. He's bringing up Lemmings 3D as another 3D game that wasn't terrible. Now, I don't know about Lemmings 3D because I think that was less well received than the prior Lemmings games. I wouldn't say it was a bad game by any means, but
yeah, that probably fits. I would think that probably fits our profile for that.
Oh, actually, as well, before I go, and I've got to mention this, that this is just a big shout out for Bill, who'll probably be running around a running track in Paris right now, and also her running mate Slenderman, who she obviously likes to go running with as well. So look out.
That's quite alarming. Isn't Slenderman a terrifying paranormal entity who feasts on the minds and souls of children and adults alike?
I have been told he is in Paris just now. And he is hanging out around some bushes by a running track. So enjoy your run, Bill.
There we go. Enjoy. Try to stay alive. If anyone else wants to leave comments underneath our podcast, please do so. If you want to ask us questions related to stuff that we've talked about, or just make comments and stuff, do so, and you'll most likely get a mention, especially if there's only like one or two. And if we get super popular and it becomes like 1 million comments, then we'll stop mentioning them, mostly because they'll probably be abusive and stuff. Is that everything? Have we addressed everything?
I think I've addressed everything for now.
Yeah, we'll be back next week with another podcast vidcast extravaganza from IncGamers.com. Until then, goodbye.
Later.
Bye.